Good evening, everyone. I have 6 o'clock with a quorum of commissioners present, so I will open up tonight's Mashpee Conservation Commission meeting for July 13th, 2023. We're meeting in the Coit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast live on local cable channel 18 and also streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website. Before we begin, if you would like to join me for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First on our agenda tonight is for public comment for any issues that are not related to agenda items that we have listed for tonight's meeting. So if somebody has something they'd like to bring to our attention, this would be the time. Seeing and hearing none?
Ask on the phone just in case they.
Oh, yeah, whoever that is that's logged in.
Whomever's on the teleconference line attending via Zoom, do you have any questions in general, comments on any items that are not on the agenda tonight? Hello? Apparently not.
No? Just a mystery name, huh?
Misdial.
Well, that's okay. I think I'll take the minutes first. Approval of the meeting minutes for June 29th, 2023. Voting on those minutes will be Paul Colombo, Alex is not here, Steve Cook, Marjorie is not here, and Sandra Godfrey. Did you guys have a chance to see those minutes?
Yeah, I'm good with them.
Look it all through, we're good? Yep. Okay, then I would accept a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any discussion at all? Hearing none. Steve, your vote?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so those minutes are accepted. And I think I'll go right to the first one. Sure. Right into those. This thing rolling. So I'm going to begin by calling the 6 o'clock hearing for Patrick M. and Sharon M. O'Connor, 66 Massasoit Avenue. This is a proposed construction of a second-story addition. Representative is DKMG LLP. This is a RDA.
Yes.
So can
You
we,
want to come up to the microphone, just give your name for the record and then a description of your proposal?
Sure. Sharon O'Connor. And what was the second thing you said, Drew?
Oh, just to describe your project.
We're planning on doing a second-story addition on the home there, making that roof line even with the other roof line for the height of the ceiling in the home, and going up on the footprint exactly as you see, except for that one area where the two windows are and the stairs. There's a little walkway there. Fortunately, the home right now has a very teeny kitchen. It's like 8 by 8. It's literally right behind that window where the door is, and that's it for the kitchen from the original cottage. So I was hoping to come out to the walkway to the corner of the home, square it all off, just square the house off, and put my kitchen right there, and above that would be the master bedroom, bathroom. The front of the home that faces the water, we're not changing the face of that at all. The footprint will go straight up. With a deck above that sun porch there. If you see where the one-car garage is and there's two windows, right there would be a deck off the master, but it would stay within that footprint of the front of the home.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
First question I would have is the application for the zoning board of appeals. Has that been filed?
No, this is our first meeting for anything for this. We spoke with Dave, and we're currently Cape and Island Engineering are doing the surveying for the land and for the engineering of the home. So we're waiting on them to complete that. And while we were meeting with Dave, he said, pop over to conservation. So we did, and found out we need to apply for the RDA. So we're here, this is the first step for us today.
Okay. Because whatever we decide here tonight, we wouldn't release any of the signed paperwork until the hearing with the zoning board of appeals has been completed. That's part of the process,
Okay, so, and they can't do that until they have the survey, yes, right?
apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
It's applied for, not
Oh,
completion of
applied
hearing.
for, right.
I'm sorry?
Did you?
So
did you-
you would have to provide proof that you have started the application process with ZBA, not the completion of the process, but just the application. So when
Okay.
you do go to apply for zoning board,
Yep,
you can either have Dave communicate to us, give us a heads up that you have officially submitted an application, or just let us know that that's
Okay.
been the case. It's in our bylaw that you have to, in order for the commission to open a hearing and deliberate over a project, you have to show evidence that you have applied for any other applicable permits for that project. for this
okay. So does that mean we can't get a answer on this tonight?
No, you can.
Okay,
It's just, we're not going to, so if the commission approves the project tonight, the next step would be the issuance of the actual permit. That would hold off until you provide us proof that you have applied for ZBA.
sure, not a problem, yep.
Okay. I was there today, looking things over. Did
Okay.
you give some consideration, when you go up that second story, that chimney is going to be extended, correct?
Correct.
And what about the tree? Because there's a lot of branches there, to me, that look like they're going to be banging against the new addition.
Might have to trim just a couple hanging over.
But we're gonna keep the
The
tree.
tree is staying,
It
Yeah.
is, yep.
okay.
It's my only shade on that
Yeah.
portion of the home. The house gets full sun all day long, so I don't want to get rid of the tree.
Yeah, no, that would not be,
It's a beautiful tree.
I'll turn
But
it
at this
over.
point, I mean, it's probably borderline where we might not even have to trim it. The high one might be higher than a peak anyways.
But but the tree is staying, and we will just trim it as necessary that we need to do.
Sure. Okay. Other questions, Steve?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Do you expect to do any foundation work since you're adding a second story? What's the condition of this foundation?
So,
You have to dig or,
There's a beam they have to put in the, across the whole kitchen in the first floor to support it. That's in the plans. There'll be a there'll be a footing for the bump out area to support that area. And
right.
then-
But what's the condition of the rest of the foundation?
Right, right.
well,
What's the condition?
Well, yeah, do you have to dig, put in additional footings underneath the existing foundation?
It was fine
supports?
as of last time when we applied. They're checking that now when they.
So
with the
you're not
engineering.
anticipating any digging besides that front
I don't
corner?
believe so.
no.
Okay. And then underneath the deck, is that a foundation right now? I can't tell from the
No,
photograph.
it's just the 6x6s.
Okay,
talking about the
so-
front deck?
So, well, yeah, no, there's a rear deck, it looks like in the back corner.
Yeah, that real deck will end up going if we can come straight out to meet the corner for the roof line to go straight up. So there'll be a set of stairs just going straight down into the driveway on the other side.
Okay, so your plan shows a deck right here, right there, on the back corner of the house, on the water side of the house, right here. Is that, is that already there, or is that
It's already there.
already there?
I think that's where our grill is in the back. I don't have my,
I couldn't tell by pictures, it looks like in that far right,
it's the far
Bottom
right
right.
corner.
So
Yeah,
that's the-
It's just a little hardscape area where we have, there's just steps that go down to where our grill is.
so that's on a foundation already?
There's no foundation, it's just stairs, and there's just hardscape. It's not a deck, it's just a little walkway area.
Okay, it's called a deck here on the plan.
Oh, I don't know why. Let me look.
I'm not sure that's how it was when we bought it, just the stairs going down.
Yeah,
So there's no, so you
foundation
know,
over there.
no digging, nothing over that way
No,
either?
no digging
Okay.
over that area either.
Okay. This is my questions.
Okay. Aaron, do you have anything?
My question was about the trade, you already hit it, so.
Okay.
Sandy?
No, also?
All set. One last question I have. When I looked at the driveway area leading towards that garage door, it appears as though everything's draining right at that door. Did you give any thought to doing some kind of drainage work in front of that garage door at all, or is that?
Oh,
The
yeah,
garage door?
yes, yes. It's
I can just see the water going right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So if you also saw that it was like
It's kind of
wonky.
buckled. and-
Yeah, it's so old. So when we did the hardscape, we were gonna have the landscapers actually take it down and level it. So in the future, we will need to do that. So, I have gutters under there right now that drain away from it. I don't know if you saw it, it's right in the corner under the stairwell. I have some gutters, that try to
Yeah.
deter the water.
Okay.
So that will be
The
down.
water that comes down the driveway, I've never seen it come in the garage.
See,
It just kinda
the
sits there.
garage itself has a little lip up,
Yeah.
so I don't get water in there. That's what saves
If
me.
any water goes down that driveway, it'll hit the concrete and it kind of just disperses under the deck kind of. It's never gone running down the banking. And it's pretty secure, the banking with grass and some plants and all that. And nothing's ever run off the hill.
So there's no drainage infrastructure?
No.
With the project?
No.
All right. Let me go out to the public. Any questions or comments from those in attendance? Hearing none. Drew, I'll come back to you. Sure.
Just quick note on the Board of Health. So the property is in a Zone 2, restricted to 2 bedrooms. There are currently 2 bedrooms in the house, but one of the bedrooms with the addition will be eliminated, and then a master bedroom on the second floor.
Yes.
So it'll remain 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
In standard language from Board of Health, if additional bedrooms are proposed, i.e. technology in combination with credit land may be an option. Floor plans to be reviewed upon submission to the building department. Note location of septic system and restrict equipment, vehicle traffic over non-load bearing H10 components. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right then. No other questions or comments. I'll accept a motion if there is one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for a negative determination for Patrick M. and Sharon M. O'Connor, 66 Massasoit Avenue. I don't know if we can do a condition that they need to file for a ZBA first?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
worth saying,
Yeah,
Yeah.
put that condition on the negative determination.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions, discussion for the motion we now have on the table? None? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Negative determination is good news. A positive would be further filing, so in case you were questioning, the word negative sometimes catches people.
Negative's good.
Negative's good.
Negative's good.
I usually, but it's good today.
It is good today. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
As soon as you
Thank
get
you.
that application filed, then just contact.
Yeah, attorney will
Absolutely.
send that stuff.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Now calling the 6:03 hearing for Megan Sue Abdullahi, 101 Meeting House Road. This is a proposed construction and maintenance of a single-family dwelling with a new Title V innovative alternative septic system, hardscaping, and landscaping. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. This is an RDA. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can I have your name for the record, please?
Megan Abdullahi, and I am the owner of 101 Meeting House Road.
Mark Lopez, I'm her dad.
We talked today when I was.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Great. If we could just have a brief description of.
Okay,
what we've
this is
got.
the property I've owned for over 40 years. I inherited it from my family, excuse me. And with the housing issues going on in Cape Cod, we decided that maybe we could give my daughter a parcel of land to build her home on. And that's what our proposal is for. And we've gotten to this point where we are looking for your approval. It's all been engineered. We're led to believe that we don't have, everything is pretty straightforward here, and we're here before you as part of our process of heading in the direction of my daughter being able to get a home next door to us.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll open it up to questions from commissioners first. Do you have anything that you would like to bring up? This would be
Yeah,
good
it's
to.
pretty straightforward. I don't know. Plan's well thought out, and like you said, the only work within the 200 foot is the clearing and construction access. And there's an edge of a clearing now, so that's what you're showing is the edge of the clearing, right, on the
Yeah.
plan, right? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
all right. Aaron, do you have anything you'd like to ask or comment on?
No?
All set? Sandy?
No, no questions?
No questions at all. I know we talked a little bit about that bunkhouse, and you're still not sure
Sure,
what's
yeah.
going to happen with that
Yeah.
in the future. Okay. So for now, it stays,
For now, it's staying.
and the caging around it,
Oh, that's just temporary. The fencing around the back?
yeah,
Oh, that's just temporary,
okay,
till we can get her in the house and
okay. Yep,
find a suitable place for her dogs.
yep. Okay, I have nothing else. Okay, I'm all set. Any questions from those in the public present here tonight? No? Drew, let me come back to you for your questions or comments.
So Board of Health approved septic system plan for a 3-bedroom microfast system proposed for new 3-bedroom dwelling on June 13th this year. Floor plans to be reviewed upon submission to the building department. I just had a quick question. It's outside of our jurisdiction, but just for curiosity, is the driveway going to be paved or impervious?
It's gonna be pervious, not gonna be paved. no.
Okay. That's it. No other questions?
Just looking. Okay then. Pretty straightforward. I'll accept a motion if there is one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for a negative determination for Megan Sue Abdullah, well,
Abdullah.
okay, thank you, 101 Meeting House Road. So,
Thank you.
I have one question. She's recently gotten married, so her last name is now Rivera, so is that gonna cause any problems with
Moving forward.
moving forward? Thank you.
I think if you just provide us just an update.
Sure.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, I just don't wanna wait and then get down the road and saying,
As long as the correct name's on the deed.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
okay. Okay,
Yeah, whatever we do gets registered with the
Yeah, it
registry
gets
of
recorded.
deeds.
Yeah.
okay, great.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a first, but I have not picked up a second on that
Second.
motion. Okay, thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion amongst commissioners before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Steve?
yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Sandy?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
With everything. All right. Okay, I'm now going to call the 6:06 hearing for Thomas R. and Lori L. Fordham, 428 Monomoskoye Road. This is a proposed raise, construct, and maintain a single-family dwelling with all appurtenances and associated utilities, new nitrogen-reducing Title V septic system, landscaping, hardscaping, and mitigation plantings. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering, and this is a notice of intent. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. And I believe you guys were trying to figure out who was on the line. That is the applicant. Thomas on the line.
Oh, that's the Tom F.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So this project is for a complete tear down and rebuild. It's located at the very end of Monomoskoye Island Road. The existing house is a single-story dwelling, and it's currently at elevations of roughly elevation 4s and 5s. It's got two wings. It's got the main house, and then it has the wing that moves towards Monomoskoye Road. What the homeowner wants to do is tear down the existing structure. However, because the structure is completely in the flood zone, it needs to be reconstructed in accordance to the flood zone building code requirements. So it is going up in elevations to meet that requirement. The flood zone elevation, because it straddles two different flood zones, it has to be based on the worst case, which is elevation 13. That means the first floor has to be elevation 14. So we have a set of stairs coming up the front of the proposed house to get up to that elevation 14 level. The house is going to be all at one level. On the water side of the house, we're going to build a new deck, and off the deck, that's going to have a second set of stairs that provides a second means of egress. Overall in footprint, we're reducing footprint for what compares to existing. We're also slightly moving further away from the wetland. When we had the wetland delineated, we found out that the edge of the salt marsh is an area that is currently mowed. So there's a portion of the salt marsh that has been mowed. It has been mowed for over 50 years by the prior owner, who was the father of the current owners. I don't know if it was that the edge of wetland was back there, and with sea rise, the wetland has creeped up, but whichever way it is, what we're proposing to do is to plant a row of native grasses along that edge of the wetland that was delineated, landward by about 2 feet. That way we'll protect the rest of the salt marsh behind it, and we allow it to grow back into a salt marsh condition. The proposed driveway is going to be reconfigured. It's going to be pervious, and we are proposing to remove a few trees that are in the way of construction, but we're also proposing to restore the same number of trees that we're removing. 2 of the new trees are going to be located towards the back of the property, towards the salt marsh, and 5 others are proposed around the new driveway. The existing site is fairly flat, roughly between elevations 4 and 7.5 by the road. The septic system currently exists at grades of elevation 6. However, based on the soil information we have from this site and several other sites, we're using the highest adjusted groundwater for all these sites. So we're using elevations of 0.8 for the adjusted groundwater and going up from there for separation to groundwater. So this system is on elevated grades. So the driveway coming into the site, for those who went to the site, is fairly flat. What we're proposing to do is slightly go up so that the septic system provides a greater separation to groundwater, and then slope back down towards the parking area in front of the house. The septic system consists of a septic tank right in front of the wing towards the front of the house. It's a denitrifying septic system, so the tank is denitrifying, then the leaching field is located partially underneath the driveway with 4.2 feet above groundwater. The grading that we're proposing, it is slightly higher, just to get this septic system to be higher, but the back of the site will retain the grades that are there. Because of the existing grades at the back of the house, and because this is probably going to need some grade beams for foundation or footings, we anticipate that if the excavation is happening during high tide levels, we're going to be dewatering. So we are showing a proposed dewatering basin. Should that be the case, that they need to maintain the excavation dry for the concrete to cure. So we just have a temporary drainage basin to allow for that to happen. The utilities will be the same as they are today. So we have water service that's going to run along the property line and then hit back to the house, the septic system, and any other utilities that they may have. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Okay, thank you. My first question is on the data for the soil logs and the groundwater elevations. It dates back to 1993. Why don't we have a current?
So there's several test pits here. There's 93, 99, 2005, and 93, 99, 2005, and another one, 93. So we reviewed it with the health agent. So there are some valid Title V. The soils are still the same. The groundwater adjustment is the correct one to be used. We've been using this correction. This correction was based on a monitoring well, using the high tides for measuring groundwater during those high water levels. And there's going to be some verification of the soils once the hole is open. So we are confident that these are acceptable soil textures. We don't expect the textures to change. All of Monomoskoye Island is basically sand after a couple of feet of digging.
Right. It's the elevation of the groundwater that's my concern. I was there today, and you've got catch basin R 6.92 listed right there on the street, which is pretty much on the property line between this parcel and the one adjacent to it. The DPW was out there either yesterday or the day before, and they installed a brand-new catch basin in that area. When I looked in that catch basin today, actually I took a tape measure, the groundwater in that catch basin is 26 inches from the grate on the drain. And I'm looking down this driveway, and the gradient drops a little bit. I know you said you were going to raise it up, but you're going to have to come up quite a bit. If the water in that catch basin is at 26 inches from the surface of the road, I got to believe that the groundwater is pretty high here.
So you're going under the assumption that this is a leaching catch basin. If this is a solid catch basin, that level that you're measuring will not leach, because a solid catch basin holds the water up to the level of a pipe going out. So if this is a solid catch basin, that elevation that you measure, which roughly comes out to be from 2.5 feet down, elevation 4.5,
Yeah.
that is a standing level until the water goes out the pipe and goes into a leaching component.
Right.
So if that's the case, that is not true groundwater. Now, elevation 5, it's not groundwater. The site itself is at elevations 3s and 4s, and going up towards the street at 6. So that will be that groundwater is leaching out of the ground at those elevations, which is not the case. Monomoskoye Island is basically a peninsula, but it's very much like an island. It's very narrow, and the groundwater there is basically controlled by the tides.
Right.
So that elevation that was measured down on a catch basin, that is not indicative of groundwater.
I don't know what kind of basin is in there. I know all the basins that I saw stacked up before the project started were not solid basins. They were all leaching basins. So I don't know.
And
And
just,
yet, when I sit here and I don't see soil logs and I don't see groundwater elevations, but I see a proposed septic system, it doesn't really give me much to go on. Then I go down on the site and I look in a brand-new catch basin and the water's right there. I begin to have concerns. So that's what I'm,
Yeah, but groundwater is not elevation 5.
what
It
is
is not. That I believe that is a holding water level from that solid structure, not the groundwater. I don't think this is groundwater.
But jumping on Paul's question too, is where was that soil perk test taken on this property?
So
Because I'm not seeing that.
if you see on the
location.
plan, you see where I have the grade 6 across the parking.
Yeah.
There's a test pit right there. It's right on top of where the septic system was
So you're
last
saying that's
installed.
that green circle with the X in it?
If you look to the right of it,
Yes,
there
I
is
see it.
1993. There's a test pit log.
1993. It's right, see the green circle with the X, Steve?
Yeah.
If you come right to the
Oh,
right
okay,
of
I
that,
see it,
above,
1993, okay. But, yeah, because I had the same concern, and not to interrupt you, Paul,
That's fine.
but I'm saying, you know, it was 1993, that's 30 years ago, and we know that water levels have changed and tides and everything have changed, so, you know, at that point, you're saying, okay, that's elevation, well, I'm trying to see what, there's an elevation 4.8, it looks like, at the front of the house there? Was that somewhere like, I see like maybe underneath faint 6, elevation 6?
The elevation we're using was from the site test pits that were done in number 411, Monomoskoye, which was controlled by monitoring wells by the tides. So that is a more accurate elevation that we're using compared to the water observed. The water observed in 93, if you look at the logs, was roughly at elevation 0.
Yeah, but this is site specific, so you're saying that test was done in 1993 at elevation 6? And then you have water at 60 inches, so that you're saying at elevation 1 foot is water was found? According to the soil log, right?
60 inches.
Right. At that point. I was just piggybacking on your question.
yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I don't feel comfortable that we don't have the current data here. I mean, like you say, 30-year-old data is, in your presentation, you talked about the mowing of the salt marsh and the fact that it was probably mowed because the water was at a lower level. Now it's at a higher level. So if it's at a higher level for the salt marsh, I got to believe that the groundwater elevation is coming up as well. And we just don't have the information.
But again, the soil information for groundwater adjustment that's being used is the one from 2005, which is from 411, 419 Monomoskoye. I'm sorry, from 411 Monomoskoye in 1999 at elevation 0.8, and we have the 4.2 separation to that elevation. The elevation that was measuring 93 was 0, elevation 0. The one we're using is 0.8.
What is the issue with getting some test pits into there right now and finding out exactly what that elevation is?
It's disturbing what they have currently using out there. They're using it this summer at the house. That's probably why when somebody went to the site, there was a few missing stakes because they had to use the driveway to turn around. So we don't want to disturb the site for them during this process. We did review with the health agent, and the health agent is comfortable. Given the information of test pits we have in the neighborhood, we can confirm the soils at the time of installation. But elevation 5 or 4.5 is not groundwater. So the measurement from that catch basin, that is not groundwater.
Wasn't there an issue with the DPW putting these basins in, hitting water?
Yeah, in the middle of Montesquieu Island, they were putting a stormwater management system in, a drainage pipe, and they had groundwater at 2 feet in the middle of the island, right before Hamlin Road. Hamlin Road would be on your right, about 200 yards before that. You can see a cut in the road right now. They just abandoned that section for the stormwater management because the groundwater was too high. It was at 2 feet when they measured it that day.
Yeah, I don't know what elevations are there,
Yeah, I don't know if it's there.
but Monomoskoye Road does go up and down in a few dips. I've done several test pits up and down Monomoskoye. I have septic systems that have been mounted 4 feet above the ground, and I have done others that there's no need of mounting at all. This site, the mounting is similar to the septic system that was just done to the neighbor right across from us, and probably 2 doors to the north right. So the elevations here are still the same.
Dan, can you iterate what the Board of Health agent's latest comments are regarding this?
Yeah, so I checked with Board of Health today, and what Raul said is definitely confirmed. I talked to Zach, he did state that if there's any question with this, that Zach does do routinely, monthly, where he goes on site when they dig the whole thing up, remove the existing of whatever, dig the whole leaching field, and then he views firsthand what the groundwater levels are at the time. And then if there's any question at that point, Zach has the Board of Health agent has gone through and amended not the order, but amended the plans. Then they can't continue work until all the drafts are done, and then they continue work, which it seems get done fairly quick at that point. the
So
draft.
right, this septic design with the microfast, we have between 2 and 3 inches to play with. So if at the time of installation, we adjust the groundwater 2 or 3 inches higher, the design doesn't change. If the adjustment is more than that, then the whole system moves by those inches up.
Okay. Any other questions, Steve?
Yeah, I have a few. So it mentions in the narrative about a garage underneath the house. Is there a garage underneath the house?
So not a garage per se, but parking.
Okay. So if, and this is going to be a concrete foundation, right?
So
Correct?
it's concrete with columns because they're going to elevate it.
Okay, so they're going to have a concrete wall with a footing, and then they're going to have columns come up out of that wall then? Or is it all on concrete pilings?
So there's going to be concrete columns. I'm not sure if they're going to do a footing or a spread beam on grade. Don't know if you're familiar with a spread beam, so it's a
Right.
3-foot overall length, the entire perimeter, and it's completely buried. And then off of that comes the columns.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking that question is, I'm seeing elevation 5.8 and 6 at where the driveway meets the house.
Yep.
And then at the rear, where the deck is, I see elevation 3.4, I see 4.7 on the other side. So I'm assuming that you're gonna have elevation 6 to park and elevation 6, and you're gonna be 3.44. You're gonna have 2 to 2.5 foot height difference in the back, so you're gonna have like a 3-foot high exposed concrete wall
So
across the back. And then at that point, you have to be 4 feet below or 3 feet, depends on how the structural engineers work that. So, and then you're hitting groundwater. So if you're at elevation 4, you're gonna be into groundwater, and that's closer to the,
So yeah, the backside
It's a
is
salt
where,
marsh.
the backside for that footing or spread beam is where we anticipate there's going to be some dewatering that's need to be done because they have to allow the concrete to cure and they have to do it on the dry. So that backside, yes, when they come up with that wall, they have to reach the depth to provide protection against frost, and the top of it is going to be the 6. And then we have existing elevations of 3.4, something like that. So if they want to step down from that, they'll have to do stairs underneath the deck.
right,
If
so,
not, they just don't walk out of there.
right, so that's why I'm concerned with the groundwater level too, and then wave action hitting that wall and, dispersing, because now you're introducing a high wall all the way across the back of the house, so you're gonna have wave action hitting that during a flooding event. And then the other thing too is the grade's dropping down, so how will stormwater be covered? Because I'm assuming this is a crushed stone driveway, but if you have a heavy rain event, will water come down this driveway because you have 7.37 down to 6,
So right,
things like that?
the
So-
grades, once you get past the septic system, the grades are fairly what they are today, fairly simple. It is not too steep. There's plenty of land before it reaches the salt marsh out back. So the runoff from this driveway is fairly what's happening today. And it just dissipates as it goes through the land. For the roof, what we are proposing is shallow trenches. because of groundwater, we have to keep it shallow to keep some separation to groundwater. In terms of wave action, this is no different this is even better than what's on the site today. So on the site, we have a full 8-foot vertical face on that side of the house. What we're proposing is the slab at elevation 6, which is roughly 2.5 feet higher than the grades, and that is it. So in terms of wave, the wave actually have better access to go through the site than it is today. In terms of footprint, the deck is going to be built above, so there's less obstructions, there's less walls, and less potential for debris.
I don't know if it's in our purview to see a cross-section through that foundation, see, okay, what all the levels are. We have a cross-section on a septic system. We don't have a cross-section through the house to see, okay, what are the grades and, you know, what's everything going to be. I don't know, is that in our purview or?
So the grade is, like we just explained, the back grades on the ground are staying what they are.
Right. but
And
it's
the
saying
slab
that-
is elevation 6.
Right, but now you're elevating a parking underneath the building with a solid wall at the back. Right now, that's not there at lower grades. And then you have, I know you have the leaching trenches and the driveways fill off, but everything's coming downhill to that elevation for that parking underneath the garage. So that's my concern is, you know, what is the design of this, is this sustainable over a long period of time in a flood zone?
So
You know,
the driveway is, if you look at the grading on the driveway is pitched to the east. So the runoff of the driveway, it's not directed towards the underneath of the house, it's towards the east, which is what's happening today.
True.
Okay.
Can
You
I?
got 6 and
This is
5.8,
Tom
yeah.
Ford. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, just one moment. One of the commissioners is still asking questions, and then we'll go
I'm
to
sorry.
public comment.
Can I just make a quick clarifying thing? We are not doing parking cars under the house.
Okay,
Okay.
so then,
So it's just a slab.
all right, so then the project description with garage under is incorrect then?
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aaron, questions, comments? Set? Sandy?
I just have one simple question. In the green restoration area here, restoration plants on the salt marsh side, there's a fire pit in the middle of that, is that,
It's no longer there, there was.
oh, okay. Well, there was one accident, I suppose, sure. Okay.
What's that?
That one? Thank you.
I'm going to come back to the mitigation plantings, the calculations. And I know we've discussed this with other projects. This entire lot is land subject to coastal flow. And the calculations are for buffer zone. What about the land subject to coastal flow? That is a resource area. You're in it. You're not in a buffer zone. You're in the resource area. And if you look at Regulation 12, and we discussed this on a project at our last meeting, looking at pre-disturbed areas, I think you're not providing enough mitigation.
So the mitigation calculation is based off of the particular riparian or non-riparian wetlands. And in this case, we do show the calculation based on a riparian, which is the salt marsh. And in all of the fringes, there's a reduction in mitigation in that there's a reduction in structures. So comparing what exists today in terms of structures to what's being proposed, there's an overall reduction of 33 square feet at the summation of all these areas. So in terms of mitigation, there's no requirement for mitigation, but we are proposing 190 square feet of plantings. We don't call it mitigation because according to the mitigation regulation, it doesn't require the mitigation based on the calculations. But we're also not asking for a waiver. So this is a development within the 50-foot to the salt marsh. The existing house is within 50 feet. But we're not asking to waive any regulation. We're actually, in our opinion, we're complying with the regulations. And we are providing restoration planting, if you want to call it restoration, just to protect that salt marsh.
Well, I don't agree, but I'll go on to other questions.
But I would like to know why don't you agree? Because in terms of the mitigation regulations, it does say if you're in a riparian, there's a certain way of calculating it if you're asking for the waiver. And you have to comply for the 3 criteria of a waiver. We're not asking for the waiver. We're tearing down an existing house that's in the flood zone and rebuilding it according to the flood zone requirements by building code. That in itself is a mitigation or an improvement on the site. Since we're not asking for the waiver, we don't believe we have to calculate the mitigation, but we still provide the calculations should it have been called out that it needed the mitigation. Even with that, we are proposing an overall net reduction in development. And even with that net reduction, we're still proposing mitigation or restoration plantings at 190 square feet. And we are replacing the trees that we're removing. So in terms of plantings, we are improving. We're also abandoning the mowing of the salt marsh and allowing it to go back into its natural state. The other improvements in some way mitigation, we're removing a pre-Title V septic system and installing a denitrifying Title V septic system. So I believe in terms of mitigation, there's plenty that this project is proposing that far exceeds what's currently on the site. Every house that gets rebuilt or remodeled that includes 50% of the value of the structure needs to comply with the building code's flood zone requirements. This one-story house, practically anything that you do to it, it's going to exceed 50% of the structure, and it will need to go up. So those are main mitigations that this project is presenting for this property.
Okay, very good. Questions from the public? Hearing none. Drew, do you have questions or comments?
So my only comment was just in regards to mitigation, and this is being born out of Regulation 31, our lawn and nitrogen loading and lawn standards, is in that regulation, it does make a recommendation that the commission can require an earthen berm separation between lawn and wetland. Berm size, is discretionary. Obviously, I think there's an example of like a 10-foot wide, 3-foot tall berm in the regulation language, but it's not written in stone as far as that's what's required across the board. But considering that, the site disturbance that's going to go along with this, I'm assuming the lawn's going to get all ripped up during construction and then put back in, I think that it makes more sense to have a berm separation between the extent of lawn and the upper salt marsh based on the delineations on the plan. And my recommendation is the establishment of a 5-foot wide, 2-foot tall earthen berm separating lawn area from upper salt marsh. The berm should be planted with a combination of native shrubs and native coastal plain grassland, grass species adapted to semi-flooded conditions. And that could easily be shown on a revised plan. I don't think it's grounds for a continuance. I think it's easy enough for staff to oversee something like that. I feel pretty confident in Board of Health agents' ability to figure out the septic groundwater separation and recommend to close an issue. There's also a submission of 2-year signed contract with a qualified professional to monitor and maintain mitigation plantings if the berm idea is acceptable to the commission.
And have you applied to the ZBA for a hearing on this?
Yes.
I do have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Raul.
And yes, the applicant will be willing to modify that break between the salt marsh and the mowed area with a 2-foot raised berm. And the applicant did inform me that they do not use fertilizer on this site. So that that would be a good positive.
Doesn't look like type of lawn that's gotten a lot of.
It's really not long.
Now, how about accessing the small walkway through the salt marsh with this berm in place?
So, right, if we do use the 2-foot raised berm, we'll have to flare up that 2 foot. So in 2 feet, the first 2 feet you go up, in 5 feet, the first 2 feet you go up to, 1 foot is flat, and 2 feet you go back down. At the point where the walkway is going to be, that 2 feet is probably extended to 4 feet, 4, 1, 4. Just to make it easier for walking as people get older.
And would that be void of vegetation in that area?
Yeah.
So yeah,
But they are allowed to have a 4-foot wide pathway according to Reg 29.
Right.
That doesn't need to be, doesn't fall subject to mitigation. So,
and it is a licensed pier at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just keep that path going.
Okay. No further questions or comments. I'd entertain a motion if there is one.
I'm still a little concerned about that leaching trench and that foundation on that back corner, the heights. It's really not clearly shown. Is that, is the leaching trench following the foundation, or is it, what's this?
On both
What's-
sides, Steve? or
Yeah,
just
both
the
sides.
one?
Well,
Both
more
sides.
on the, looking at the plan on the right side or the east side of the plan. Saying, okay, how deep below grade is that? The foundation's going from roughly 5.86 at the front.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be higher out of the ground, so, is that leaching
So
field flat, at what elevation is that leaching field for, leaching trench, I should say, not
So
field?
there's a detail in the plan for the trench. If you look just below the mitigation calculation. So the trench is just the typical splash trench that you see. It follows the grade.
Follows the
It
grade.
does not follow elevation 6. It follows
Follows
the
the
grade.
grade all the way down.
And
So
it's
that-
12 inches down.
Okay, so then that follows the grade, it's 12 inches down. So if elevation 3.4 at the back corner, it's 2.4, so it's
2.4.
pretty close to the groundwater. What would happen at a
So,
high
right,
tide, high tide and heavy rain?
When during high tides, like it happened this past December, the ocean flooded this site. At that point, it doesn't matter what we have for drainage. So yeah, in extreme tide cycles and storm cycles, yeah, the drainage, just like any drainage that's in the flood zone, will not do anything. So when we design drainage system, is for the most often storms, but we don't design anything for flooding of the ocean.
Okay.
Well, my question is just for Steve and for Raul, is this a better situation or as good as the current existing conditions?
It's definitely better.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is, the most common rainstorms, the 1-year storm, the 2-year storm, those are the ones that we're providing that additional benefit. When it comes to 100-year storms, we cannot, in sites like this one, we cannot protect the drainage.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so then I'm back to in search of a motion, if there is one.
Well, I do agree with Drew said, this is much better than what's there, so, okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for Thomas R. and Laurie L. Fordham, 428 Monomoskoye Road, for the close and issue on the notice of intent with the condition that establishment of 5-foot wide, 2-foot tall earthen berm separating lawn from upper marsh planted with native shrubs and grasses, and submission of 2-year signed contract for professional monitoring and maintenance of all mitigation plantings. The plan to be updated and submitted to staff, and staff to coordinate on plantings. I think that's what you mentioned, Drew?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you want to witness the septic when they open that up to see where the groundwater is? Or are we just going to leave that to the Board of Health?
I'll leave it to the Board of Health.
Board of Health, yeah.
That's my recommendation. He's more than qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See it.
yeah,
Okay.
because if there's a problem, they'll take care of it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Motion made and seconded to close an issue with those conditions. Any further discussion amongst commissioners? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Steve?
yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck when you open up that ground. That catch basin makes me nervous. I'm serious. Is it warm in here or what?
Yes. I wouldn't open up the window because it's not much cooler outside.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now calling the 609 hearing for Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC, 275 Quiniquisette Avenue. Proposed construction and maintenance of 14 single-family homes with paved driveways, sidewalk, drainage systems, and associated utilities. Representative at Baxter Nye Engineering. It's continued from May 4th and June 15th of 2023. It's a notice of intent. We have a request from the applicant to continue tonight's hearing to September 21 at 6 PM. And this is in order to give sufficient time for the planning board to iron out whatever issues they've been working on, and for our peer review. That contract went out this week, correct?
Correct. And just to clarify for the planning board specifically, I think they're getting into the whole cumulative bedroom count for the special permit
Right.
that Willow Bend has, so that's the kind of crux of the issue with planning board.
It's going to take a while.
It's gonna take a while to vet that out, so.
Yeah. So we won't see them until September.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the 609 hearing for Southwest Mashpee Properties LLC, 275 Quiniquisette Ave, to September 21st at
6 o'clock,
6 PM.
first one up.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any discussion or questions on that from commissioners? No? I would take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries, so that will be continued down the road, please. I'm now going to call the 612 hearing for Brian Brochu, 32 Crescent Road. This is for a proposed installation of a seasonal dock, pier, and float, access ladder, and kayak wrecks. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. This is a notice of intent. Good evening again.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for this project. This project is to get permission to install a seasonal freshwater pier on Johns Pond, specifically on the western shores of Johns Pond. The property already has a dwelling that is outside of the 100-foot buffer to the pond. There is an existing path that leads to the edge of the pond, and it opens up to a sandy area right at the edge of the property with the neighbor to the north. What the homeowner wants to do is to install a seasonal pier. And these seasonal piers are aluminum pre-constructed sections that get either wheeled into the water or set on footings, some foots on the surface of the pond. I think in this case, we chose to do the foots instead of the wheels. The wheels take additional width when you have to store them. We are proposing it a little bit further down or further south from the current area where the path leads to. because currently the neighbor to the north uses that same area for recreation, and just to provide some separation between the neighbors, we're providing it further south, approximately 23 feet from the projected property line on over the pond. There is plenty of water at this location we're proposing. The pier will be approximately 62 feet long, but as we know, the pond's water levels come up and down depending on the season, if we have a wet season or a dry season. But based on the elevations that we obtained in March of 2023, we have about 3 feet of water depth at that distance of 62 feet. These sections are modular. They're 8-foot section long. They each detach from each other, and they can be pulled out of the water and stored on the path. The end section of this is proposed to be a float. It's a 14 by 5-foot float that the homeowner wants to have at the end of this pier. There has to be a path that's going to be extended from the end of the existing path to get to the point where we're proposing this pier. We are filing with, or we filed with NHESP or MISA. Haven't heard back, but whatever conditions they post on the project, we'll have to adhere to it. The reason for it is portion of it is in estimated habitat. All of it is in priority habitat. So whatever condition they come down with, we'll have to adhere to.
So they did issue the letter today, no take.
I did not see the letter, but it's been issued. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I was on the site today, and the owner was there, and she mentioned something about the path not being wide enough, where she walks down with poles. So is there a plan to widen this out, or is it just going to be what it is?
So one of the residents has MS,
Right.
and if you walk the existing path, it's about 7 foot wide right now, so that she can walk next to him. The one that we're proposing for because that's what the regulation allows us for. If the commission is willing, they would like to have something wider because of their condition. But because the regulation limit paths to no more than 4, that's what we propose on the path. But if the commissioners want to entertain this discussion, the homeowner would like something a little wider.
Problem going down that hill is there's a lot of good-sized trees. If you try to widen it out, I think you're going to run into
Not the existing path. The existing
the new
path,
path.
the new path is proposed as 4.
Right.
What we're proposing is similar to what we did on another freshwater pier on Johns Pond on the eastern shores, is that the path will meander the trees. But if you look at what we're proposing, we're kind of going laterally. So grade-wise, we're not changing much grade. But if we do have some shrubbery that we have to eliminate just to keep that straight line, then shrubberies will be eliminated. What we want to avoid is eliminating trees.
And what about the timber steps? Are those staying or going?
So they're staying. That's the last portion to kind of access the flat area. We're not proposing to remove them.
Because those are pretty treacherous. I can imagine when they're wet, it would be pretty tough for the owner to navigate that if she's having a hard time with the width of the path itself.
If that is the case, I can reach out to the client, and I think just replacing timber steps would be something that we can do administratively with staff instead of having to come back to this board, if that happens to be what they choose to do. It's just 2 landscape timber steps, what they have.
Right. Maybe you could put new ones in and space them out differently or something and make
Yeah,
it
we
easier to
could-
traverse. I don't know.
We could absolutely administratively approve that because the same footprint as well as
Right.
pulling those out. It's gonna make a little disturbance, so it'd be a perfect opportunity to put something new in on the
Yeah.
spot. We could do that through administrative approval.
And the float row, does that stay in the water over the winter or is
No, so everything is seasonal.
everything comes out?
Everything is seasonal.
And there's enough room on this new pathway to store all of those sections?
So on the existing pathway, there is. Getting them, he does say he has 2 strong kids that they can get it out of the way.
Put them to work while they're young.
Yeah. And is there a certain time frame that those have to come out by?
No, there's no time of year restriction as far as when, oh, I'm sorry. It was interesting that Marine Fisheries had some comments, the first time I've seen for a freshwater seasonal dock. Their recommendations was time of year restriction for installation and removal of the dock between April 1st and June 15th, which I think is workable. Most docks go in, mid to late June anyway, just to reduce in-water disturbance, because Johns Pond is a migratory fish run for
So no later than June 15, no earlier than April 3rd.
correct.
And removal? Was there a time
That
restriction?
was the only TOY.
Got it.
For both.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general, though, we don't have anything aside from Marine
We don't,
Fisheries
yeah.
recommendations as far as when they want to take it out. Put it in. Always recommend to take it out before the water freezes, because the shelf life of that dock will be about a year if you leave it in.
Oh, yeah, that'll twist up nice,
Yeah.
trying to get that up. Okay, I have no further questions. Steve, anything?
Yeah, I have a couple. On a practical standpoint, with a 4-foot wide path, even if we agree to make it a little wider, I find it difficult to move a 4-foot by, 8-foot, 6-foot segments down a narrow path, and you have to do almost a 90-degree turn coming off the dock, so.
So yeah, for those who are not familiar with the seasonal piers that are like this one, the decking is modular, so the decking comes off. The frame and the legs detach, so you're carrying a frame sideways. You're not carrying it on the 4-foot width.
Okay.
So the frame, you carry it sideways. So
Sideways.
It's not, and it'll also hit lighter that way. The flow, that's something that's probably going to be hauled onto the town ramp to take out of the water, because I think
That's going to be,
even with 2 young kids, I think it's 600 pounds or
Right.
so.
might be
Okay.
asking a bit much of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
removing the float of the town ramp is usually the standard for most.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that question. So the other question is, why did I understand what you said about separation from the neighbor, but why couldn't you start this at the beach, the existing beach, and angle it along with the property line to come out roughly where the same area is, and not even disturb that zone?
So if we go in that same area, then we're talking about probably an 80 to 90 foot long flow to get to the same depths of water. If you see where the 3-foot water depths are reaching, and if the pier begins kind of like where the path ends, we have another 20 or so feet, 15 or so feet to go with. At this location, it complies with, it provides everything that the homeowner wanted. Greater separation to that neighbor, reaching the water depths with not much structure. And in ponds, same as in the ocean or shoreline, we try to get as close to perpendicular piers so that we attain those water depths that we want sooner. In this case, we can't really go perpendicular because then we avoid the deeper water. We go perpendicular, we get closer to the property line and shallower waters.
Right, but you're only saying, you're talking 2.3 feet versus 2.5, 2.8, so it's minimal distance. If you have 2.7, 2.3, 2.5 next to the float, if you come out and make it a little bit longer, it's still 2.3, 2.5, 2.8 along that projected property line. And then you don't have to disturb all that undergrowth. You already have an existing beach. You just come off that beach and follow the property line out. Yeah, if it's, another, 10 or 15 or 20 feet deeper to get to the same water depth, then you're not disturbing all that undergrowth that's been there. It's virgin undergrowth.
Does the neighbor to the north have a pier also that they're trying to avoid? Like, is
I
that
don't know
why?
of a pier. I do know they use that same vicinity area to enjoy the pond, and that's what the neighbor. So the neighbor wants to get away from that corner because the neighbors are using it.
Yeah, but you just you're planning to disturb a, 4 to 5 foot wide new path and undisturbed undergrowth right now, and when usually there's a beach there and you see in a photograph, there's plenty of room, so if it ends up being 15 feet longer, I don't see that.
It's allowed to have the pathway through the naturally vegetated buffer strip under Reg 29, so I think it's ultimately their discretion as long as it's kept, or if you want to allow it wider for disability reasons. I think it meets the standards of the act, the reg. You can have a 4 foot wide pathway through naturally vegetated buffer strip, whether it jogs or where it's coming from is really the discretion of the applicant, but it is allowed.
Okay. It's the same, you had an open beach.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, I'm just clarifying the reg.
And if I could just add, I mean, this existing 100-foot buffer is all wooded. This is not a site that has much development happening in the buffer zone. So this is one of those that currently there is 100 foot of woodland between the development and the pond. So I just think it provides the better use for the homeowner and at the same time allowing separation between neighbors.
How much wider would they want the path to be?
So I would suspect it's similar to the width of the existing one, so it's probably 6 feet.
So
If-
if this,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Roy.
So if the vegetation is something that's concerning, I did mention this to my client, is that the area that's already cleared, we could plant some shrubs at that location to compensate for what we're clearing. Not to the edge of the water, because then the water will kill whatever we plant. But the section that's higher than the DEP inland bank could support some vegetation similar to what's already there. So we could plant a couple of blueberries to kind of offset some of the clearing that we're doing.
That sounds reasonable. If this was denied, you didn't think, based on it meets all requirements of the regulation, it wouldn't stand up to scrutiny of a denial, if this was denied?
If this was denied, I mean, you'd have to provide reasoning why it's denied, why it violates the performance standards of the applicable regulations, and it doesn't.
Doesn't, right, yeah, okay. That's what I want, just verify that.
Sure.
Aaron, questions, comments?
Just that I'd be okay with the idea of widening it a little bit. I was on the site, it is really thickly vegetated. I feel like it could support, a path that width. 6 feet would be fine with me, especially if they want to use the property and enjoy the wetlands, I think it'd be great. I'd be in favor of it.
Okay. Sandy?
So,
All set. Okay. Questions from members in the audience? Comments? Hearing none? Drew, do you have any other recommendations?
Just a reiteration of the time of year restriction recommended by Marine Fisheries from April 1st to June 15th, that should be put into the motion. Also, a condition of no off-season storage of dock or float components over existing native vegetation anywhere within wetlands jurisdiction. No clearing of vegetation along the shoreline to establish a beach storage area for the dock components. So I know that was all gone over, that they'll be stored within the pathway layout, but it's a condition that we put in for all docks and piers regardless, but just to make it part of the motion. Yep. No other comments.
Thank you. I guess the last remaining issue would be the width of the proposed pathway. If you do want to increase that, how much do you want to increase it by? We don't have a specific request, correct?
Right, I know the regulations are 4 feet. If the board or the commission chooses to do 6, there has to be a finding that you're willing to offer the additional 2 feet. And that keeps it a 6-foot constant width from beginning to pier.
Sounds reasonable to accommodate side-by-side walking, given the consideration.
The owner mentioned it to me when I was on the site today. She said she walks down with poles, and if it could be a little bit wider, it would facilitate her being able to get down there.
Right, so what I understood, she always walks down with someone next to her.
Right.
So 2 bodies going down and then laterally.
It's a hike down there, it's steep.
Yeah.
Okay, then. I'd accept a motion if there is one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, make a motion for a close an issue on a notice of intent for Brian Boshu, 32 Crescent Road, with the following conditions. The time of year restriction for installation and removal based on installation between April 1st and June 15th, and removal before, was that before ice in? Is that what typically they do, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. No off-season storage of the dock and floor components over existing native vegetation anywhere within the wetlands jurisdiction, no clearing along the shoreline. Adding the blueberry bush plantings, that can be added to the plan and just submitted to staff consultation. And then changing the width on the path from 4 feet to 6 feet on the plan.
4 to 6. Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that
I
motion?
second that.
Thank you, Aaron. Motion made and seconded on the table for discussion amongst commissioners, if there's any closing issues or comments. When we widened the path out to 6 feet, I wasn't observant today when I was down there as to the size of trees that would have to come out. I don't know what. I know there's a lot of brush there, some nice flowering bushes of some type, but I didn't really look at the specific trees that would, I don't know what.
We can make a condition of a on-site flagging inspection just to make sure that you're taking the most circuitous or avoidance route to, try to avoid that
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah.
And it could be that the turn happens higher to avoid
Right.
trees.
Right, if there's something right there,
Right.
sure.
Yep.
And we can assess that through pre-construction on
Yeah.
site as well,
Yeah.
if need be.
Yeah, not a
Okay.
problem.
Do we need to add that in the motion,
Yeah,
or
we back up
Deb?
and amend your motion if
Yeah,
you would.
yeah, amend the motion to add a pre-construction meeting with staff for the route of the path and any tree clearing.
Okay. Second to that?
Second.
All right. So, any discussion on that amended motion? Then I'll take the vote first for the amended motion, and then for the motion itself. So, a vote on the amendment. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
It's Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So the motion has now been amended, and I'll do a roll call vote for that motion. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron? Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now call the 6:15 hearing for Christopher Hool of 45 Buccaneer, it says road here, but isn't it way?
Yes, it is.
It is. Buccaneer Way. Proposed reconstruction of front deck, stairs, walkway, and back patio, repair of existing retaining wall with improvements in site drainage, driveway repave, and expansion with associated landscaping. Representative is the owner of record, Michael F. and Carol A. Hool. Request for determination of applicability. Good evening, sir. Can I have your name for the record?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, members of the commission and Mr. Chairman. Christopher Hool, representing the owner, Michael Hool, my father, who's here as well. And yes, we're requesting a negative determination for the proposed work that you described at 45 Buccaneer Way, which is in the Mashpee Neck neighborhood. portion of the proposed work falls within the 100-foot buffer zone to Coastal Bank, but that is the only resource area that affects the proposed work. The primary impetus for the work was a notification from the homeowner's insurance company that that they would withhold coverage due to the condition of the retaining walls in the front of the property that lines the parking area and the driveway. Those walls are about between 2 and 4 feet. So this work that's proposed is to largely remove the walls, but reconstruct. There will still be needed. There'll be approximately a 2-foot wall put back in its place, and earth removal to accommodate that lowering of the wall. And then another main feature of this work is to improve the drainage on the property that is currently. If you kind of think of how this foundation was constructed, back in the 60s, excavated out the foundation and then bermed up the spoils on either side of the property, so it kind of sits like a bowl, so the existing drainage flows toward the foundation. And it is a concrete block foundation as well. It's concrete block walls. So there is some drainage issues inside of the basement. So we're trying to remedy that as well. And just the nature of having to lower the walls approximately 2 feet, you have to chase that grade back into the backyard. So that's why we're proposing grading that extends into the backyard to about where the patio area is. I did include a site plan with the submission as well. And another portion of the work is, of course, repaving as part of that. You can see from the photos that the condition of the pavement is in poor condition as well. We are requesting removal of 2 hazard pitch pine trees that are in the backyard. Those are the closest, that's the closest work to the coastal bank. Top of slope, they're essentially at the top of slope, and we included some photos along those lines. Just touch on the grading again. The idea with the grading on the either side of the property is to match it with the grades of the neighboring yard. They're essentially bermed up on either side, so we'll just kind of level it off and match the grade to the neighbor's yards on either side. Are including erosion control measures as part of this plan. So in the rear of the property, which is kind of the highest point of the property, there'll be straw wattles or other necessary means that the commission determines. And then there'll be straw wattles in the front of the yard or the driveway rather, because that's where most of the drainage is flowing to ultimately right now. The steep areas along the sides of the property that will be regraded, that's, I think, too steep to get grass to grow or anything else. So those will be a mulched landscape bed. That area shows up in the photos that you're looking at, kind of in the middle center top, I should say. That's looking out toward the street. So that area, which is currently wooded, that will be reconstructed with a mulch landscape bed, because that area is what will be ultimately graded back to level slope with the neighboring property. And I should just say that there's no new lawn proposed, just replacement of lawn to accommodate the work. So with that, I'll open up with questions.
Thank you. The parking area that you're proposing to increase, that's going to go back towards where the boat is stored, correct?
Exactly, yeah, that's the tallest wall right there. I think it's about 4 feet. So that portion there where you see the large rhododendron, that will be largely removed.
So that whole road is going out?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then the parking lot itself goes back to the wall for the boat storage area, or is that wall coming out as well? And
The boat storage area will remain, so that's why I kind of hesitated on your question, is because we don't know exactly what how the grades will work to tie into the boat storage area. So some land may, or earth may remain there to accommodate that boat storage area, but the majority of what you see in that lower right-hand photo will be removed and matched to the grade of the boat storage. Correct. And then that's the steepest area, as I said, so that's where we'll have to do kind of like a tiered wall. There'll be, gradual slope up to a 2-foot wall, and then it'll tier up to match the existing grade. One thing I didn't mention earlier too is that there's existing stairs and a deck to enter the house. Because of the grading, that all has to be removed, as well as the condition. So that'll be replaced, mostly in kind, with a slight expansion of the deck to better fit into the space.
And the other wall on the right-hand side of the driveway, that's coming out as well? And then a replacement wall going in, or?
That should be able to be completely removed and graded back to match the neighbor's property.
'Cause I was looking at that large oak tree that's between
Yes.
you and the neighbors. I think when you start to bring that grade down, I mean, it's pretty soft up there with all the moss, but what if, in the event, you hit some good-sized roots on that oak tree as you try to lower that grade?
There will be tree removals necessary to do the grading to remove that wall, yes. And that area is depicted in the plan in the hatched area. Those trees that you see between those two properties have grown up in that sort of mounded area between the 2 yards. There was some photos, I think, of exactly that area in my submission. Might be a little.
Turn it over to the other commissioners for questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the scope of the work, and, yeah, I did have some concern about the trees on the east side of the property where you mentioned the grades can be taken down, but I'm just concerned that there's just a lack of information. There's no site plan that shows the grades, what you're proposing, for the walls and heights of walls, and, what you're going to change the grades, where the 100-foot buffer is on that. I understand the 2 pitch pines in the rear, but, what's the distance from the house there? Are they in the 100-foot buffer? So there's a lot of missing details.
Sure.
For a site plan that shows what you're doing. I know a lot of the work is outside the 100-foot buffer, but I just need some more details.
Yeah, I certainly understand the comment. We're trying to save money, of course. This is just in order to do a site plan, we need a surveyor plan. I am a licensed engineer in Massachusetts, so I could help my father in that regard. But in terms of hiring a surveyor to develop the plot plan, all that, and the existing conditions plan, there's cost associated with that. And because there's only a small portion of the work that does actually fall within the 100-foot buffer, that we wanted to take the route of trying this route first, given that it's really only grading and tree removal, minor grading, and tree removals that are within the 100-foot buffer zone. The majority of the work
But where is that 100-foot buffer zone?
Yep. So if you look at the resource area there, you have salt marsh that's up at the top. That's in the hatch. These are the DEP wetland layers, I should say. And you have 100-year flood zone elevation at elevation 10. Those topo lines that you're seeing are 10-foot contours. So the back of the yard, the top of slope, which is also depicted by that red line, which is the proposed erosion control, that's elevation 30. So you're about 20 feet up from the 100-year flood zone. Coastal bank has not been delineated. In order to do that, you would need I'm sure you're aware, you need a survey plan to identify slopes. But I can say that the slope is gradual enough between that 30-foot contour and that 10-foot zone to say pretty definitively that it's down around that 10-foot. But we have not delineated coastal bank because we do not have that survey plan. But that being said, at the most conservative estimate of coastal bank would be where the top of slope is, where the red erosion control barrier line is shown. And the patio is approximately 50 feet from that line. and then the front of the house is about another 100 feet. And I do have the scales here, so it's obviously partially turned, so we'd have to just measure, but it's the majority of the grading work, wall removal work, all the work in the front yard with the driveways, that is out of the 100-foot buffer zone. Again, it's that side yard work that is within the jurisdiction, as well as those two proposed tree removals.
Does the 200-foot riverfront come into play in this?
No, it
property?
does not. The Mashpee River is off to the west, and there is no riverfront zone that extends up into this. It's a small tidal inlet.
Right, thank you.
The two trees, do you have a report saying that they are dead or dying or?
No, we don't. And I did speak with Drew about a month ago in that regard. So wanted to come to you today. I mean, there are pitch pine trees, so as you can imagine, they lose their branches very often, and that is where the shed is and the fence. So we'd like to remove them. We discussed the possibility of if we do. If the commission does allow removal, we'd be open to plantings, replacement plantings with native plantings, bayberry, or anything else that you would recommend. We'd be more than happy to include that as part of the, buffer zone kind of screening along the top of slope.
So I can comment on that a little.
Sure.
In the pictures included that we have on here, on the right, you'll see the pitch pines. The one closest to the shed had a lot of sapsucker damage. And that tells me that internally it has something wrong with it because they're just feeding off it, basically. The one on the left, I didn't see any sapsucker damage, but it was literally overgrowing on a rock.
Okay.
The base of the tree literally overtook the rock. So the one closest to the shed, I would say that one could be taken out because of the sapsucker damage, because it's going to fall in the next, who knows, 5 years, whatnot. The other one would be both of them at discretion of the commission, but the other one could be up in the air as to how you'd like to go about that.
Yeah, part of it's, to do this work, we need a tree company to come in and remove the trees along the edges. So, trying to, again, save cost and kind of take care of everything at the same time, as opposed to waiting until it falls and breaks something. So thank you for those comments, Ian.
And for the pitch pines, for the tree removal, do you have a time of year if the project were to go through?
I think he's got his contractor lined up right now, but which I certainly, if you have questions in regard to bats,
No, just the sap from the pitch pine might attract beetles.
Oh,
and
interesting.
that might just infest the other trees, so I didn't know if there was a time of year.
Yeah,
that
if you
would-
cut pitch pines and you leave the stump, it still emanates pitch, which can be an attractant for the southern pine borer beetle.
Oh, interesting.
Once temperatures hover below 40 degrees on average, there is no emanation of pitch from a stump left behind. If you're going to cut it in 40 degrees or above average temperature, you need to grind the stump out. Stumps.
Okay, so yeah, obviously the work is kind of as soon as possible. That being said, I think we could entertain, comments in that regard. If the commission
It would
approves.
be a requirement
Yeah.
of the, if approval, if you're going to cut the pitch pines in the warmer months, the stumps must be grinded out.
Okay,
Yeah.
grinded, specifically grinded, or could they be pulled out within?
Pulled
excavator?
out, grinded
Okay.
out, and then the area stabilized. Yeah, because
That's-
we don't want to attract more pine borer beetles, and that is a primary way to attract them, is to leave bleeding stumps behind, so.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, it's not a problem.
Other questions? Commissioners? Questions from those in attendance? Hearing none. Drew, I'll come back to you for any closing comments or questions you might have.
So, I agree, Steve, I know there's a lot of information, detailed information missing from the plan as far as what we would expect from a surveyed plan. I guess one of the questions I have with this regrading, how are you going to ensure that you're not going to change runoff patterns to the neighbor or into the road? Those are concerns. They're not directly related to the resource area, obviously, but because this is jurisdictional And some of our approvals include boilerplate conditions that no part of this project will result in runoff of water to neighboring properties, alteration of drainage patterns, those sorts of things, and grading is going to alter the drainage pattern. So what can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, I will say that any drainage that comes off the property now does flow directly to the street. There's the catch basins for the neighborhood are to the east, in front of the property to the east. There's a little hole there. So that will continue. That will not change. So any runoff from the driveway or the parking area will continue to flow as it does. In terms of the area between the property to the east, that is currently, it's obviously mounded up now. It'll continue to be mounded up. If you went there and visited the site, you'll see that the neighbor to the east put in a new fence, which kind of sets that grade. So we'll be matching that grade. So again, the crest of that hill will remain where the fence line is. So any runoff on 45 Buccaneer Way outside of the fence will stay on that side. So that side I think is easy to describe. The property to the west is relatively flat. There's really not much grading proposed there, and it is a sandy soil. So there's not a lot of runoff leaving that portion of the site now, and I wouldn't expect that to change.
I would just say that on the eastern side, I guess, where you're going to be grubbing out that triangular area shown on the plan, instead of a garden bed, that be planted up with native species. As far as the resource area being coastal bank and the performance standards, obviously this is not going to impact the standards or functions of the bank in any way. The exception of the removal of 2 risk trees, which can be mitigated for. Because the area and the buffer zone to the bank is actually down gradient of the bank, I don't see any adverse impacts from the regrading to the resource area. So for all intents and purposes, with the understanding that it would be desirable to have more details, it meets the performance standards for coastal bank. And I don't think I have any other comments. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right. And did I hear you correct when you said the retaining wall on the driveway side, the right-hand side of the driveway, that's going to be completely gone?
That is the desire. I think that some will have to remain up closer to the garage, but the lower portion, closer to the street, the idea is to fully remove that, and that's the extent of where most of the grading occurs to eliminate the need for that wall there.
And the larger trees that are on that embankment are all staying?
The trees up to about the rear of the house have to be removed to accommodate that grading to eliminate that wall.
That large oak tree?
Yeah, yes. Any trees that fall within that triangle that was in the site plan, I would anticipate being removed. Up in the backyard, there's some photos in the filing as well. The backyard is flat, largely, so that's where the grading will end once you get to the backyard. But it's mounded up on that right side of the house, east side of the house, I should say. So so you can kind of see where it starts to flatten out as you get to the rear of the house, but it's Yep. And so I can't tell from the photo if that's an oak or a pine, but there's one large oak and I think one large pine there, and then the rest of them are rather small.
And that's not jurisdictional for us, right?
Might be right on the fringe of the 100-foot setback. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. 'Cause,
100-foot was like.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend a continuance to get some more information, to get a site plan to show where the buffer zone is, mitigation for those 2 pitch pines, and show all trees and walls and so forth. So make sure, like Drew mentioned, runoff is captured
Right.
on the street, and say, okay, during construction, will there be, hay wattles and silt fence and things like that to keep runoff? So I would recommend a continuance to get a site plan for more information.
May I
When you say
respond?
site plan, can you be specific about what type of plan you want to see? Is it stamped or?
Yeah, stamps,
Okay.
stamp site plan, from a surveyor or engineer that shows all the pertinent information to make a informed
Buffer zone
decision.
For the coastal bank and.
Yeah, coastal,
I'm
where's
concerned
go?
about the big oak tree.
Yeah.
I think if that were to come down out of there, that's a huge hole.
Yeah, well, if we can, on the site plan to show, okay, where are all the new walls going, what are the new grades, and what trees are gonna be removed
Right.
there, Are they in the 100-foot buffer, are they just outside the 100-foot buffer? We don't know that yet,
May I respond?
yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of mitigation, right, I mean, that's the question at hand here. And we're more than open to planting the entire area that needs to be disturbed with any amount of native plantings that the commission requires. So in terms of the effective outcome of having an engineer plan and a survey sealed plan doesn't change the project. And that's why we are here today to seek approval to essentially the plan will be the same, right? So in terms of mitigation, we're happy to accommodate that as part of a condition. The design won't change because the grades are what they are.
Well, right now, we don't know what the grade's going to be. We don't know what the wall height's going to be. Whereas the 100-foot buffer, the two trees coming out, are they within a 100-foot buffer? Yes, you can show two new native plantings going in, whether American holly, eastern, white cedar, or whatever plants, trees are going to go back in. That oak tree to come out, is that in a 100-foot buffer or is out? What are the grades? There's a lot of open questions here. And that's typically what we ask of applicants is to have a plan. So what plan is your contractor working off of? Is he just going to wing it, or does he have a plan to know, okay, what's the height? What's the materials on the walls? How are you going to stop runoff during construction?
Yeah, so
Things like that. So that's what the plan will address. And then you and the contractor have something moving forward, and us as a Conservation Commission and the staff know what's going on that site. You're asking for our approval for this, so we just need more information.
Yeah, I fully understand. The contractor scope of work is included in the filing package. So you can see that, but it is, it's summarized, of course, by the narrative. In terms of the erosion controls, those are laid out on the site plan, so they would be in, even though it's one of the highest point of the property, we're running erosion controls across the entire north side of the property, so from property line to property line and beyond, to accommodate any erosion or sediment that may flow toward the salt marsh, as well as putting erosion control barriers in the road to prevent exposed sediment or exposed soil from eroding down into the street. So the erosion control measures are in the plan, and having a professional land surveyor develop an existing condition plan doesn't change that design. In terms of the coastal bank, as I said, we're the conservative estimate. The most conservative estimate would be the top of the slope where the erosion control barriers are laid out, which still only brings the jurisdiction of the commission to approximately the front portion of the yard. So I am conceding that this back portion, side portion, I should say, may be within your jurisdiction, in which case we are open to any amount of mitigation plantings that the commission may require as part of that grading. So I understand the desire to see more of an engineering drawing, but in terms of what's at the jurisdiction of the commission, we're open to any amount of mitigation that the commission may request with the plan as it is today.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion if there is one.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for Christopher Hull, 45 Buccaneer Road, for continuance for more information for site plan to show the 100-foot buffer, mitigation planting for the 2 pitch pines to be removed, and all that aspects of the project for walls, grading, tree cutting and erosion control.
Hold on one second.
Second that.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so I will open that motion up then to discussions, questions, comments by commissioners only. Anything else? Drew, if this motion were to carry, what would the schedule look like for a continuance?
This would be August 10th at 6:03 PM.
8/10/6:03 PM. Okay.
I just want to make a comment just in terms of protocol. If a continuance is in order, it has to be, the request has to be made by the applicant, because it's their decision ultimately. They could withdraw, they could continue, they could ask for continued deliberation. So the continuance can't be required of the commission, it has to be acquiesced by the applicant. You
Okay.
can suggest it, but you can't require it.
Okay, so then I would have to withdraw that
I
motion?
would withdraw the motion and revote.
Okay, I would withdraw the motion.
Stating a continuance.
Okay, so make a new motion to recommend a continuance if the applicant agrees, is that the
Yeah.
correct word?
Yeah.
For the new site plan, to show a 100-foot buffer, mitigation for the 2 pitch pines, show all trees to be removed with new grades and wall and erosion control.
Okay, so all the same conditions, other than asking the applicant to agree. So says the applicant.
May I confer with the homeowner? And then could you reopen this maybe after the next agenda item?
I guess we could do that. Sure. Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so can I have a motion then to table this discussion and reopen at a later time this evening?
Yeah, make a motion to table the 6:15 hearing for Christopher Hool, 45 Buccaneer Road, to later in this hearing.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any discussion on that? Hearing none by the commissioners, I'll take a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so we'll reopen the hearing later this evening.
Thank you very much. Will it be at the end or to be determined? Okay.
What do you feel is whatever time?
Yeah,
Be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
all right, so I'm going to move on to the 6:18 hearing for Stephen M. and Jill M. Purpura, 134 Shore Drive West, proposed access stairs and bank stabilization. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. This is continued from June 29th, and there has been an additional request for a continuance, I believe.
Yes. Raul, do you want to just kind of give a summation of what's the scenario here?
Yes, for the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicants. So yeah, we're asking for a continuance. The homeowner has additional work that he wants to do, and part of that work is working with the pool. So in this amendment, we're looking to do that, and we're trying to engage with a consultant for the invasive plant removal and restoration of the buffer zone with native plants. The buffer zone is mainly knotweed, so we're asking for continuance to August 10 to get that additional information in, submit it, and further review the project with this board.
So this would be 6:03 PM on August 10th.
6:03/8/10. And this was the project where we had the mulch
Correct.
and the extra path?
Correct.
Has that been remediated?
Yeah, so
Yes, yeah.
Raul sent pictures. The mulch is all removed. Its regrowth right now is pretty much invasive, it
all
seems,
invasive.
at the point. Go figure. So it is removed and it is being
Okay.
allowed to
Yeah.
regrow at this moment.
Okay, great. All right then. I'll entertain a motion on that continuance.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, make a motion for Stephen M. and Jill M. Purpura, 134 Shore Drive West, continue the hearing to August 10th at 6:03 PM.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions or comments from commissioners on that request? Good? All right, roll call vote, Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so that will be continued 8/10/6/03.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, 6:21 hearing for Kenneth E. Masters, second, 53 Lakeview Drive, proposed construction of an in-ground pool landscaping and hardscaping representative as Prime Properties Limited Partnership. This is amended order of conditions that was continued from June 29th. And we have a request to continue. Mr.
Could I
Marsters,
just say a few words? There is a
absolutely,
request
come
I'd
up to the
like say a few words.
microphone and
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
give us your name, address
Yes,
for the
thank you.
record, and
Kenneth Masters, 77 Bay Shore Drive. Once I saw it on the agenda, I said, oh my God, I have to go to the meeting. I didn't know that you just read in the continuance. But the reason why I'm here is I just want to do a little update because I know Drew's visited the site. You were there today, Paul, so I
was
thought.
there today,
I said,
Sandy was there.
and I wasn't too sure if you knew it was going to be continued or not, so I figured, well, I'll go anyways, but out of respect for the fact
No,
that
I
you were
didn't
there.
at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
that's what I figured. So I'm glad I got a chance to talk what we're going to do. I am not asking for this to be voted on today at all because we're not done. Getting there, we're not done, but it's a good chance to talk about what we've done so far. At the last meeting, I requested to meet with Drew, and he came out right away. It was awesome. We talked about what he wanted us to do that had to be done, and that was to remove the hay bales in the areas where it needed to be, which was most of the area. And remove the siltation fence and replace the siltation fence in that most of the area that we talked where it worked. Did a little bit of work prior to that, Drew knew, because we were afraid of a rainstorm having on a Friday, so we went down and we hand dug a lot of stuff. So went down there, did some hand digging, and then Drew said, no, you got to get rid of all that stuff. So we did. As of today, as a matter of fact, I think what you saw this, you were pretty much here at the end of the day, so you probably are going to.
it was around noon time.
Yeah, it was
I
noon.
think,
Okay,
that-
maybe we've done a little bit more since then.
I talked
So.
to the contractor that was there.
Yeah, you did, and that was great. And that guy is not my landscaper; he's my road contractor, so he understands water runoff really, really well. So I brought the big guns in for this one because we needed some help, as you know. And I respectfully remember what you told me, and you were right. You were absolutely right on. We did remove we have everything done. And what we're doing so far is we put up the hay fence. The hay bales or the wattles will be installed tomorrow. We took the grading, we brought the grading down a little bit, and then we built a berm, as you could see, and we pulled all the water to run off so it wouldn't go down the slope.
Right.
And what we're going to do now is we've loamed that slope. We're going to put jute mix on that slope, because that slope is not going to be half as severe or long as it was before. We'll put jute mix, and then we're going to go ahead and put it in its finished stage with the little bit of some type of seed. What was the kind of seed? Wildflower seed we're going to put down there. And so we're going to stabilize that area right away. So that won't be an issue again. And we're going to do that all the length of the whole property line. So we get the whole property line covered with what we're doing. And then hopefully by the time we come back, and I think our next one is August 10th, you'll see the finished product. But I'm glad you got to see that what was in the state right now, because it shows you what we're doing.
Yeah, it was a marked improvement.
Yeah, and my guy's a good guy, and he said he had a great conversation with you too. And one thing we did discuss with Drew too. I hate to say we discussed with Drew as he walks out the door, right? I don't want to talk behind Drew's back, but we did talk about a little bit of the siltation that went down into the grass path and into the poison ivy.
Right.
And it is poison ivy because look at that; it's all over his body. I sent him in, not me.
Going.
That's a good thing about being the father, not the son, right? And I think it was agreed upon with Drew, and I'm not putting words in Drew's mouth. I'll wait till he comes back in. That won't do much damage because it's not wetland, of course. It's poison ivy, and it's very small siltation. And try to go back and rake it out or something would probably be more abrasive to what's in there right now. So I'm really glad you were out there today because you get to see what we're doing.
Always go back.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah. So that's why I'm here. That was just the update that I wanted to give you. I will be back, I promise, August 10th, and I'm sure when you come back the next time, you'll see the jute mix down, you'll see the seed down, you'll see the filtration down. Again, you'll see the wattles down, and we should be at final grade, and you'll see how we're capturing our water. As we put the water down because it's a long lineal trench that we're building. Right. And one of the things that caused on the first time what caused a lot of the drainage was we had long sloping water. And when that happens, water can build up steam and really do some damage, as we saw with ravines, that were built. When we're doing the drainage, we're going to be putting 3/4 stone for velocity reduction as it rolls down, like you see in subdivisions. So even if it goes down, it will really slow the water down. So I think what we do right now is going to be a foolproof system that we're going to put in, so. Yeah, no, I guarantee.
make you
I
nervous.
guarantee. No, you'll never see one of those again, I promise. I don't want to see one of those again, Paul, I promise.
No. Okay.
So that's where we stand. So I'm going to be back on April 10th.
April? No.
Yeah, August
Let's
10th,
go with
yeah.
August. That might work
Yeah,
out
I'm getting
better.
old, I'm a senior citizen,
Okay, then I would entertain a motion for a continuance to August 10th at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. First one up.
Press one up, okay, so moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second?
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions, discussion on that motion? We're good? Roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we'll see you
Thank you.
August, not April, August 10th.
Yeah.
And look who's back.
He's back. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Are you set? Okay, I'm going to back up to the 6:15 hearing for Christopher Poole, 45 Buccaneer Road, and reopen that hearing as he has come back after his discussions.
Thank you, Commission. Christopher Houle, representing 45 Buccaneer Way. I would like to request continuance to the, I believe you said August 10th hearing, to provide the information as requested by the Commission.
Yes, August 10th.
6:06.
No, we took 6:03 for a different one, right?
Yeah, it's 6:06.
6:06.
6:06.
Okay. And you're squared away on what the plan needs to show?
Yes.
Do you want to repeat those again, Steve, just? to be-
Yeah, maybe I'll make a couple notes if you don't mind restating
Okay,
the motion.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion for Christopher Houle, 45 Buccaneer Road, to continue the hearing to August 10th at 6:06 PM to develop a site plan that shows a 100-foot buffer, mitigation for the 2 pitch pines to be removed, and to show all trees to be removed, new grades, walls, and erosion control.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're good? Okay. Second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Sandy?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. So we'll see you on August 10th at 6:06. And you should have that plan into us 5 days?
Yes, 5 days prior.
5 days prior to the hearing, so that commissioners have ample time to review the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a great night. Thanks.
All right. Back and forth here.
I apologize. I have to get going. Sorry, I have to get going. Damn, finish.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, okay. Thank you. Yes, actually.
Okay, I'm going to open up the 6:24 hearing for Thomas and Joan Marie Anoletto, trustees, 48 Quaker Run Road. This is a proposed construction of a pier ramp and float. Representative is Shorefront Consulting. This hearing is continued from June 29th, and it is a notice of intent.
Yes.
Good evening, gentlemen. If you can have your name for the record, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. For the record, I'm Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, and Tony Anoletto is next to me. So we were able to obtain the regular DEP file number page from DEP. When we left here before, we had given you a unstamped plan that showed the dock being shortened 50 feet. The harbor master had agreed that he was fine with that, and we had that information that night, but the plan wasn't stamped. So since then, that plan, without any changes, has been stamped, and then the town of Ashpee Natural Resources was able to provide their mitigation, which I assume you have.
Yes.
Yep. So that being said, I believe those are the only two outstanding issues, and I'm available to answer any questions.
So the pier has been shortened, the 50, was it 50 feet?
Shortened by 50 feet.
By 50.
Yeah, yes.
And this plan from last time is now stamped this time.
Yeah, we gave you a stamped plan this time. It's still revision 1, but it's stamped.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
yes.
Any questions from commissioners now that we have that information that we requested?
Nope. Looks like the applicant provided everything that we
Yeah.
requested, yeah.
It's got 2 stamps on it.
I just want to confirm, shellfish mitigation fee, everything's okay with that? No questions?
Yeah, it's done, in my experience, it's done similar to how we do it in Dennis. It's a value and a square footage, and you just do the numbers and.
Absolutely.
When is it due? Before
That will be-
construction?
Yes.
Okay.
That'll be due before construction. It'll be stated in the order of conditions.
Yes.
If the commission decides.
And you have the figure.
I have it right here, $43.99 and
Yep.
35 cents.
Plus tax. I'm only kidding. Okay. Any other questions, comments from commissioners? None? From those in attendance? No? Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you for any questions or comments that you might have, other than the fee that you just mentioned. I don't know if there's anything else.
Nope, everything was absolutely covered. The plan's stamped now. The dock was reduced in size, the dock was reduced in size. And the shellfish mitigation fee, everything is fine from us.
So we're good. We're good with everything we needed.
Yeah,
Perfect.
recommend to close an issue.
Perfect. No other questions then? I will call for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for Thomas and Joan Marie Analetto, trustees, 48 Quick Around the Road, for closing issue on the notice of intent filing with the condition of the payment of $2,639.61. That's what it says on this paper. Is a different number?
Yeah.
It should be the 4,001. I didn't notice the note until now.
Let's see,
It's $4,399.35.
4,399.
Yes.
and what-
95. I'm sorry, 35 cents.
35 cents. Okay, so correct that, so.
Typo on the comment,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
So with the condition
That's okay.
that the shellfish mitigation fee is paid prior to construction for $4,399.35.
Okay,
Second that.
thank you, Aaron. Motion made and seconded, open for discussion amongst commission. Nothing? We're good? Okay, then I'll take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Good luck.
You're one of the few boards that has made this relatively painless.
Except for the 4,300.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon.
No.
Yeah,
Not in my world, so.
I have seen them larger.
Thank you for
so-
all your cooperation.
Thank you. Okay. All that's left is the certificate of compliance at 627 for 14 Grand Vista. Are we good with that, Dan? That's a past inspection?
Yep, they passed inspection today.
Okay, so there are no issues with that. All right, I'm going to back up then to, hold on. Now that we have all those hearings out of the way. Our next order of agenda is a discussion, Mashpee water quality issues and initiatives. It's an ongoing discussion item. Anything that you would like to bring up?
No?
I mean, I could talk all
Right,
night.
I was gonna say, like, where do you start?
Well, we can start with some good news. The cyanobacteria alert has been lifted for Mashpee Wakeby.
Yes, yeah, the ponds are now deemed to be safe to swim in,
Okay, for now.
minus Santuit Pond.
Right.
Santuit remains the same.
I was at John's Pond today for several of those jobs, and the water looked beautiful. I mean, it's clean. I didn't go in, but it looked good. So that's always good news. I know the sewer commission met today, and there was a lot of talk about menu items that we'll be hearing from the select board meeting on Monday night. There's a joint meeting
Joint
between
meeting, we're-
select board and sewer commission at 6 o'clock. David, is that?
It's 6 o'clock, yeah.
I believe it's 6. So we'll get a little more information with that. Did you want to comment on the Earth Day 2024?
Yeah, so in your
Initiative.
packets, there's a map of Santuit Pond. The map shows, you can see in the top right corner, the Santuit Pond fish ladder. And the map itself is showing the buffer zones from the Santuit River.
Where is it?
It might.
Is it in the back?
Yeah, it's the third,
Oh, in the back.
third one in, the yellow
Way
one.
up at the beginning. I'm
This
still
is pre-post, yeah.
Yeah, so for Earth Day, that is an old abandoned cranberry bogs. In the bogs currently right now are just a couple of, not a couple, there's some invasive honeysuckle bushes that have grown completely out of control, and there's some natives, pitch pines and such in there. So for Earth Day next year, I'm proposing to plant all 3 of those bogs, not the last one. There's one in the southern end that is far too vegetated. The trees are between 80 feet tall and who knows how wide, so they're established. So is to plant an Atlantic white cedar swamp in all 3 of those bogs. So I've been working on donations to have a specimen tree in each bog that would be between 10 and 15 feet tall. The reason for that, in the winter, these trees are the main feed source for deer, Atlantic white cedar, so they will chew them apart. But to have a specimen tree there that can produce seeds and drop them each year will help with repopulating that area. And then having an Earth Day event where somewhere is between 400 to 1,000 seedlings would be planted. So far I have the high school and the junior high in Mashpee interested. The tribe has expressed interest in helping with donations of trees as well as other nonprofit groups have shown interest in supplying just seedlings for donations. To get this on the ground. And the reason for that is historically, from the records I have seen so far, this was an old Atlantic cedar swamp. So that when these bogs were put in place in, gosh, I think it was 62, 52, somewheres around there, they leveled everything, created the bogs, completely destroyed the cedar swamp. But also, the cedar swamp is an amazing feature for any wetland, for any pond, for anything, especially the river right there. It filters, it loves acidic soils, and it just loves moist conditions completely. I think this is a perfect opportunity because these bogs, currently, the 3 bogs, each about a half acre almost, or a little under, they are in perfect condition where I can go in myself, remove the trees, remove the invasives that need to be, and keep only the native stocks that are in there. That would give us enough space to replant the entire area with whatever Atlantic white cedar seedlings we can get. And then at that point, I would do that in the winter. I would bore drill holes right through the stumps of the removals without using any herbicide and basically just fill it with water and let it freeze. And that would reduce the energy and the strength of the tree for the growing season. So if there are any sprouts during the installation of the trees and the planting, the participants could literally just cut them down as they stand. And that would get us ahead of it. And at that point, they would hopefully lose all energy. If not, just hand picking out the sprouts during that summer growing season. They wouldn't survive the rest of the season from there. So I've done that in the past, and it requires no herbicide, especially for an area that's like this. The bog itself is a wetland. So I put the buffer zones on there just to show you the idea of where the river lies. But the bog itself is a wetland. So the reason I'm presenting this to you is to gather information and comments on this because this will be worked directly in a wetland. Yes, it will be a net benefit. It will be planting and repopulating it with a native species, in this case with a native swamp. And the whole purpose of this is to do it on Earth Day, to have the site prepped beforehand, and essentially to plant a tree that we'll never be able to sit in the shade of, is my goal here. So that's
And
where
is
I'm
it
at.
For all 4 fields, Dan?
No, so it'll only be for the 3 fields. At first, the bottom field, field number 4, I was looking at from GIS. Upon inspection, there's a lot of standing water in there that directly abuts the river almost. And the trees are massive, and they're all pretty much white oak. So that can stay. There's no reason to disturb that or even touch it, especially for the fact with these plantings, I will be encouraging essentially hunting on the property. It's already legal to hunting, but that will help reduce the amount of deer pressure on the new seedlings for the first year. And also that would help everything else in the park because hunting the deer and maintaining their populations is crucial here in Mashpee. And some people don't know, but we have a very healthy deer population. So
They're everywhere.
they absolutely are.
So that'd be a filing then, right?
So that's what I want to hear. I want to hear if you would like to file for this. That's definitely a comment I need to hear, because if that's the case, I want to get that process sooner than later. But that should not be an obstacle that I want to avoid.
Right.
If it's a filing, it's a filing. I want to
I'd
get
do
that
it to
done.
cross your T,
I
dot your i's and cross
Yeah,
your t's,
absolutely.
yeah, to say it's all on the up and up,
All you need
no
is
questions.
one aggrieved neighbor that says, hey, how come the town's doing that
Right.
without going through the proper procedure?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we will go, I will do that.
About that, yeah.
I will definitely look into a filing for this. Absolutely. So again, this is in wetlands. This is not within anything. The bog itself is stable. All the channels that were originally made, all the culverts in the bog are completely stable. There's one section that's not, but that section is not going to be planted at all. You can see it on the map. Where am I? Right there. That section there, it may look stable. The edges are not. So that would be one thing.
That's the top corner on Field 3.
Yes.
We're looking at that.
So, I just think this is a project that's needed. It will bring back a cultural importance of the property itself, as well as bring back, hopefully, some water quality needs that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So especially for Santuit Pond, that's in desperate need. And the Santuit River directly abuts it, which could improve, hopefully, from any increase of native vegetation to native shading to filtration to the river of the water. So,
Great.
So that's the plan here.
Great. I appreciate your energy. That sounds like a great project. Okay, I'm going to move on our discussions. There's two separate ones here, Environmental Oversight Committee and the Community Preservation Committee. When we reorganized, you people reelected me as chair, and you also reappointed me as the representative of conservation to the Community Preservation Committee. We're looking at reactivating the Environmental Oversight Committee. In fact, I think we're coming fairly close. I don't know if it's going to be discussed at the Select Board meeting, this coming meeting, but soon. When the Environmental Oversight Committee went dormant, I guess I can use that phrase, dormant, Caitlin Catarat was chairing the committee. She sat on that committee as well as Drew, and I sat on that committee. Originally, it was Chad Smith as chair, and then he relinquished that, and the commission voted me to represent them. And then it went dormant. So I just assumed that when it was reactivated, it would come up with the same membership. But since the talk of reactivating this has come around, some people have been looking back at the original intent of the Select Board in setting up the environmental oversight. They've gone through the minutes of Select Board meetings. I believe it goes back as far as June of 2005. And then there was a second vote in July, I think it was July 23rd of 2005, which reconfigured it a little bit differently. And then I don't know if there's been anything since then. But when it does come back up, I am certainly interested in maintaining my role as chair of the commission, representing the commission on the environmental oversight. But I don't know if the Select Board's intent is set up that way. I guess that still remains to be seen. So I would actually call tonight, I would ask for one of the three of you to nominate me to stay in that role so that at least that piece is done. And then whatever the Select Board decides as the configuration of the committee, then it would get up and start operating again. I would relinquish my role on the Community Preservation Committee. Since I was appointed to that, my wife, Michaela, as a Select Board member, was appointed, and the optics of having husband and wife sitting on one committee probably isn't the best thing in the world. Not that we always agree on everything, but environmental oversight is more my forte. And I know one of you might be interested in
Mr.
taking
Chairman,
that.
I would be interested in going on to the CPC.
Okay.
I've had some experience reading applications, granted not the same type of application, but I think I could, be of service, so I wouldn't mind doing that.
All right. So I'd like to entertain, let's deal with the Oversight Committee representative first. I'll entertain a motion for nominees for me or anyone else.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate you for the Environmental Oversight Committee.
Okay? I'd say thank you, but I won't. I'll say, okay. And according to Robert's rules, there's no need for a second on that. Is there any other nominations for environmental oversight? Steve, interested in jumping into that?
I don't have time.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I'm overwhelmed.
Okay, no other nominations, so I'll call for a vote then on keeping me as the representative of the commission. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Normally, I wouldn't vote for myself, but I will because we have two members that are absent, and if I didn't vote, if I abstained and those other two members aren't voting, I don't know if it carries. So I'm going to vote for myself, which I'm entitled to do, and I'll take that. Thank you. And that takes us back to the Community Preservation Committee. I have not submitted a letter of resignation for that because I didn't know how this was all going to play out tonight, but I will certainly submit that first thing tomorrow. So if somebody would like to nominate Sandy,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Sandy for the Community Preservation Committee.
okay? And again, we don't need a second on that for a nomination. Any other nominations for CPC? No? No. Okay, then I'll take a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Do I have to vote yes to make it? Yes.
I would because of the fact that we have two commissioners missing and, 3-3 is,
Right.
that wouldn't carry.
Okay.
So you're going to vote for
Yes.
yourself? Okay. There you go. Good. All right, so we have that at least squared away. And again, I don't know, and David, you probably don't want to comment on this, but I mean, you are the chair of the environmental oversight, and I know you've been working on trying to get this configured as best that it's going to be. And based on the last time it did meet, both agents from the commission were actively involved on that committee, and then we had the voting member of the commission. And that's, I assume, I would hope that's the way it stays, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to.
That's the way I envisioned it, was that, it looks like reviewing some of the meeting minutes and things, there's a lot of technical information and things. So I was looking at the composition of the committee to be represented by members of the various boards with relative experience, and then asking the agents to come in and facilitate, data and information to help support a lot of the stuff they're talking about on that is very technical. So, we'll rely on the agents for information and input into discussions and things. And then kind of the voting members will be made up of representatives from the various boards, is the way I envision it. As Paul stated, there has been some back and forth with going back to the original mission statement of the blue, group. I forget the previous name, but.
Blue ribbon something.
Blue ribbon something or other. And then when it converted over to the EOC, the mission statement kind of stayed the same, yet expanded a little bit, and they started looking at a lot of the water quality issues and other things going on in town. I want to continue that work. It seems like now it's really necessary with everything going on with our freshwater and saltwater bodies.
Yeah.
So looking forward to getting this started once we clarify these last things.
Right.
And we'll be scheduling a meeting shortly.
And would that committee reorganize each year as well as all the boards and
I
committees?
believe this is a committee where folks have voted to, where some committees, the select board just appoints. This one's one of the ones, there's 4 or 5 that we have to vote on. So this one was voted on, and it does say that it has to be voted on annually.
Annually, okay.
And then it doesn't look like they're staggered terms. So it looks like every year, like all the sitting members will have to be reappointed by their respective bodies.
Right, okay. Great, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it. Okay, the other updates, we have printed comments here from Drew. If there's any one particular one that you would like to spend some time with, I'd be more than happy to put that on the table, or if you're okay with everything that's here, we can maybe dispense with that, and
Yeah, so I'm good with all the explanations.
you're good with what we
Yeah,
have here?
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on with the local comprehensive plan. I haven't heard anything lately about when that's going to roll out. Gotta believe it soon. I think they have all the survey information.
Yeah, I know it's definitely being discussed constantly, so I would hope it's coming up soon. I'm just not aware of how it's rolling right now.
Last I had heard, there was talk about it in September or early fall, that we'd be all set to go, but I don't want to state that as official. I just don't know. Okay, then. We have no other additional topics that I'm aware of, nor do we have any other communication that needs to be brought before the commission. So with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment, if there is one.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? I will say the last time we had an adjournment, I did vote no because I wanted to stay, and that's recorded in the minutes that we all approved. I hate to see these meetings end, but tonight I'm okay with it because it's awful hot.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve?
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Meeting adjourned at